I am going to do my video today about my journey towards getting diagnosed with fibromyalgia and kind of the struggles that I went through trying to get that diagnosis, all the different doctors and medical runaround, and also to talk about the struggles that I have been experiencing trying to figure out a new normal, so to speak, and just trying to understand my own body, which is, bodies are complicated, bodies are weird, bodies are whack. So to start off, I've generally, now that I look back at my life, I can see the signs of what I was diagnosed with, but there was numerous reasons why either I kind of dismissed them, or if I did think I had a problem, I would go to a medical professional and be like, oh, it's nothing, and they would just, give me a pill, or, say it's all in my head, essentially. I've always struggled with, sorry, my eye is watering, with being tired all the time, and always just generally feeling this general sense of malaise, and if I did, anything physically active, I would just be out of the count for a while. And that really impacted me in college, as well as other things, having undiagnosed autism and not being treated for my ADD, because most ADD medications just mess with my system. I tried last year to get on one, and it was just whack, and I'm like, nope, not doing that. Anyway, but in college, it affected me, and then going into after college with my work, like, I could work, but I would just come home so exhausted, and I couldn't do anything. And every day getting up was just a struggle. And I always chalked it up to be, well, that's just normal. Everybody gets tired, if you're working hard, that's just the way it's supposed to be. And not because I had other medical problems, kind of autoimmune related, I was just like, oh, it's just my diabetes, it's just my asthma, it's just my endo, that's causing all these issues. And I had also, been hit twice. Well, I hadn't been hit. Initially, when I was in college, I'd only been hit once. When I was in high school, I was a pedestrian, and I'd injured my foot and my tailbone, so when I would have, kind of phantom pains there, after the fact, I was just like, oh, it's just my injury acting up. But that didn't account for kind of the widespread pain and just the general feeling of sensitivity and not wanting to be touched, and just, feeling generally tired. I didn't really try to pursue anything until after my second vehicular incident where I was hit while I was on my bike and injured my neck. And, I got all this treatment, chiropractic, massage, TENS, all that kind of stuff. And in times past that, I also gotten treatment on my lower back because my lower back just kept on being weird. But I started to think to myself, this really isn't normal. I don't feel like I'm normal. And so back in, I think, probably 2018, I believe, I went to my primary care doctor saying, hey, look, I'm just always tired all the time. I've been to sleep doctors before, and I have apnea, but I wear my CPAP, and I still, no matter how long I sleep, I always just wake up tired, and I always just feel super just sore all the time, no matter what I do. And so I was like, I want to get a referral to a rheumatologist to see if there's something going on, maybe chronic fatigue. In my mind, I was thinking chronic fatigue, or maybe arthritis, or something like that. And so he did blood work, and you can't get a referral to a rheumatologist unless I can't remember what the test is called, but the test that tests for inflammation markers, and I didn't have any. So they're like, well, probably you're just depressed. Here, have some more medication. And when I would talk about it with my sleep doctor, it's like, well, because I was also I have really bad insomnia, um, and I think I had been previously another sleep doctor had diagnosed me with delayed sleep phase disorder, where my body doesn't want to go to sleep when normal people do. My circadian rhythm is just slightly this way, where I'm more likely to fall asleep later and wake up later. And he's like, well, you just need to practice good sleep hygiene, and here's more pills. And so I did that, but still dealing with issues. And it's like, at that point, I'm like, well, if I can't get this referral to this rheumatologist, how? And I guess nothing's wrong with me. And I kind of put on the back burner. There was other things I was dealing with. I think in 2018, 2019, I had like 3 surgeries in the space of 1 year. And so I was dealing with that and also, trying to work. But nearing the end of my tenure at Smith, my pain was just getting worse and worse and worse, and I was just having daily headaches. And I always knew that I had migraines. And I was like, oh, it's just a migraine. So I was just constantly popping pills, and I didn't ever see a headache specialist. But then after I quit, well, quit/fired, I started, because I had more time to myself, I started like, well, I need to pursue this. Why does my back always hurt? Why does all my neck and my shoulders and my head always just feel like someone's stabbing me with an ice pick? And so I went on that journey, went to the headache specialist. They're like, oh, here's some migraine medication. And they did an image in my brain just to make sure that nothing was going on there. Nothing was wrong there. But I was just still having super immense pain, even with the medication, even with going to massage and chiropractic stuff. So finally, I went to, I didn't get a referral, I just made the phone call myself, um, saying, hey, I need help with my neck and my back. So I went to the orthopedist, and they took initially x-rays. And they're like, well, yeah, there's this going on, but just go to PT, and if it gets really bad, we'll give you steroid shots. So I went to PT, and in a lot of ways, it made it worse. And so I think that was late 2020. At that point, I was also trying to get in the process of getting my hysterectomy and trying to... So I didn't have as much time to focus on getting super involved beyond, like PT. But it came to a point where I'm just like, this is just not getting better. I've been doing this for 3 months, and now they're saying, well, you've run out of PT. And so I eventually got the steroid shot that kind of sort of helped. And the only reason they did the steroid shot is because I was like, I need an MRI. Something is just whack. Like, I need to know specifically what the structures are that are causing me the pain. Because at this point, beyond the x-rays, I hadn't even never gotten any imaging. My past 2 car accidents, well, pedestrian incidents, I hadn't gotten imaging. They just like, oh, your tailbone's bruised. And then the second one, I was like, well, I don't want to pay the ambulance fee, so I never went to the hospital. Don't do that. If you get hit, go to the hospital. I was, fortunate in this country that you have to think that way. Like, well, I don't have the money to pay the ambulance, so I'm just not going to get treatment. I think that's probably more common than people think, and I think it's messed up. Anyway, at that point, I've got my hysterectomy in January, and I had gotten my imaging that previous November. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, I need to focus. After my hysterectomy, I'll get back into PT, and see if that helps. Did. Neck, back stuff, still pretty gnarly. So I decided, and I was still trying to go to PT, didn't work. They tried decompressing my neck to see if that would help. Because at this point I was in so much pain that I was just constantly laying down, and just pretty much non-functional. I'm still working on function right now, but the function that I'm at right now, while not great, is definitely a lot better than that point in time. But I had already done what they had asked, and I still wasn't making progress. So finally, they get these doctors. I can't remember who made the referral, whether it was my orthopedist or my PT person. They're like, "Well, we're going to send you to the pain management clinic." And I sat there at the pain management clinic that I finally got more targeted care, and I also was going to see a neurologist for my for about a year about my headaches, and he finally ordered a neck MRI, and it was way bad. It was compressing on my spinal cord, impinging all these nerves, stenosis, bulging discs, herniation, all this wonderful, fabulous stuff. So now I finally had an answer about what the pain was, at least in those specific areas. But then as they were, like doing examinations on me, it's like, does this hurt? Does this hurt? And there's all these places on my body that were not related to my neck and lower back pain, but I still felt sensations of pain. And it's like, well, that's weird, It's like, you probably have, describing the other pains that you have besides, your injury sites, probably you have fibro. And so, I got their testing done. And they're like, yeah, that's probably what it is. And so I'm like, well, you should probably start at PT, but the PT is going to be a little bit different than what other PTs you've been at. Because in other PTs that I've been at, it's been focusing on kind of like strengthening and exercising and getting you moving, which is all well and good, but it, like I said, it was making things worse. And so I started up with that, and then I went to my neurologist as well, because I had 2 neck MRIs 6 months apart, and the second one it was just getting worse, the stenosis and all the impingement. And it's like, well, you need to have surgery, hon. And I was just like, oh gosh, no, because my hysterectomy was a traumatic thing. So I got that surgery back in February, and it's helped a lot with some of my symptoms. Obviously, there was a pathology to why I was having pain radiating down into my arms, and there was a pathology why there was pain in my lower back. But then I also started kind of pursuing nerve testing too, because they were wondering, well, yeah, you probably have fibro, but we're wondering if there's any other sort of nerve damage. And so I did that testing. Turns out I have neuropathy and diabetic neuropathy, which makes sense. I've been diabetic since I was 17 for 20 years. And then my carpal tunnel, well, better since the surgery that I had in 2019 to release both my hands. I was still dealing with that, but like I said, after surgery it was better, and I'm still, in that recovery process. But throughout all this, it's, I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing. I've been trying to figure out ways to function. Because, yeah, they have the diagnosis, but the treatment is I don't know. I sometimes I just really can't wrap my head around, because I feel like fibro is not super well understood from what I can tell. A lot of it, there for a long time, people were like, "Oh, it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's all in your head." But now, they're doing research and studies, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, it is real," but we don't necessarily know what to do with it. And a lot of the treatments for it were medications I was already on, because a lot of it is various types of antidepressants, and some other things. Like, I haven't done the injections yet. We haven't gotten to that point. I think we're trying to find out what my baseline is after I recover from surgeries, because I have to have the same surgery on my neck that I have on my lower back, but I have to wait until next February to do that, when this fully heals. So that's kind of compounding the problem of finding what my baseline is. Uh, but another aspect it is kind of mental health. They gave me all these packets saying your hurts won't harm you. If you don't move, it's going to make it hurt worse. And yeah, I agree with that. But if you move too much and do too much, and we'll be in bed the next day, just not being able to function because I did too much. And that's really frustrating, especially when I live. Even though I don't work, I still have responsibilities in my home. My brother lives with me and his 3 kids, and thankfully it's not summer vacation anymore, but, so I don't have to necessarily worry about them during the day, but, when they get home, make sure I'm in charge of meals for them at night. And thankfully there's multiple adults in the house, so it's not like it's all on me. But, there's still responsibilities I want to have, and part of it is that's for my own mental health as well, because I know this about me, from therapy and just being generally very I think too much. I tend to equate my worth with what I can do versus like who I am intrinsically as a person. And so I want to do things, and I want to achieve things and be busy and productive, but at this point, it's really, really hard to do, and I feel like if there's something that needs to get done, I feel like I have to kind of sacrifice myself in a way, and like, okay, this needs to be done, it's going to take a lot of effort, and the next day I just have to crash and, let my body heal, because when my body gets overwhelmed, I experience flu-like symptoms, and also I feel like I'm about to have a cold. And once, I get the rest I need to recuperate, that goes away. But that's just my body's response to me putting it through things that are hard for it. And like I said previously, my capacity to do things is slowly increasing. The more PT I do and the more I kind of push myself, but it's really, really, really slow. It's really, really frustrating. And, hurts don't harm, but there's, in my physical therapy, I also have this I feel like, diametrically opposed message of, when you're doing your exercises, don't do it to make it hurt. Don't aggravate your injuries, but I feel like every movement that I make aggravates my injuries, you know what I mean? So it's hard for me to find that balance between movement, not getting myself too stiff, and the fact that for whatever reason, I can't get my stupid doctor to keep my baclofen, my muscle relaxant, that prescription. We're like, oh yeah, you need to take it throughout your recovery, and yet they only wrap me a month for it. And I'm just like, whatever. So trying to balance movement without hurting myself, then trying to get the things that I need done, in the household. My room is just, there's certain things that I do every day to keep the mess at bay, but it's still just, the living situation is chaotic, and trying to ask for help with things like that is hard. And what's frustrating is because there's some days where I feel like my capacity is higher and I can do more, and there's other days where it's not. And living in the house, so I live with my parents, and I know they get frustrated with me. And since my diagnosis with the fibro, they've been a little bit more understanding, because I've, tried to explain things to them, like I can't overdo it, I'll try, to get stuff done, but sometimes it'll be delayed. I have to do it in my own time, because if I do too much, I make myself sick. But that's really, really hard to deal with. And then, no, I wrote down notes, but I haven't really followed it in a linear fashion. But anyway, it's hard, because beyond, the physical stuff that you're dealing with, there's the emotional stuff as well. And right now, I was in therapy for a good year, and that helped a lot. But now, since I switched over to a different type of Medicaid, I can't see the therapist that I usually had. I have to go through Wasatch Behavioral Health. And part of me is afraid, because I've heard bad things about it, and I'm like, am I going to find someone who actually listens, actually understands, it isn't trying to, gaslight me into not thinking I have a problem. And emotionally, like I said earlier, the fact that I can't do what I want to do, and I'm limited in what I can, even in cases of personal hygiene. I always make sure, to shower, and because I don't like being stinky. Ugh, just. But there's other aspects of hygiene and personal care that I just can't do, or I can only do them every so often because it hurts my body. I like doing my hair or my makeup, or just stuff like that. Or brushing my hair. It causes increased pain, so I feel kind of stuck inside the house. Partly because I don't have a car. Well, my parents have a car, but I'm reliant on them for transportation because I can't drive because of all my mental issues. I'm dependent on them to get to places. Whereas before, before the accident, or not accident, before I started having all of these severe pain issues, I could ride my bike. I, you know, kind of sort of walk. Couldn't, run or anything, but I was, getting exercise. I was physically active, and if I wanted to go somewhere, at least within town, I could at least do that. And now, because I can't really move my neck, I'm afraid to go out on the road. I have a gym membership to the rec center, but that's dependent on my parents taking me. And even though they have a membership, they very rarely go. And so, because the times that I have went, maybe a handful of times where I've done swimming, watercraft, that's one of the few exercises right now that doesn't aggravate my body as much. And even if I were able to get back on a bike again with my neck, in some ways it's aggravating other parts of my body that have been previously injured. And then there's this constant, I finally had to have a talk with my PT, Because he's like, well, have you been moving? You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. You need to lose weight. And I was just like, stop it. Because, yeah, I know to lose weight, but it's really, really hard to do that when you're in pain. And so you're trying, and, he was saying, oh, don't overdo it, don't overdo it. But I feel like the nature of exercise is to create, and it's like you're tearing your muscle tissues and allowing them to heal so that they can grow bigger and bigger so you can get stronger. And yeah, I suppose there's ways you can exercise that can have that and not aggravate injuries, but I still can't figure it out. It'd be lovely if I had a personal trainer, who could just guide me through the exercise. Like, okay, does that hurt? Does that hurt? Does that hurt? And that's kind of what my PT is doing. But when I'm at home, it's harder to replicate that because I don't have someone guiding me, and I'm probably doing movements that are making it worse, because I don't have someone telling me, like, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. I don't know. My brain-body connection is a little warped. Like when my doctor says, how does this feel? How does this feel? I'm like, or they'll try to, I hate the pain scale. Like, what percentage have you been incapacitated this week? What percentage, like having all these scales, and I know that they have to do it, I think, for insurance purposes and have some quantifiable data, but I'm like, I don't know. And it's like, what does this exercise feel like in this part of the body? And like, me trying to figure that out and how to describe it is hard. And so, this video is all already getting really, really long. I'm trying to look over my notes and see if I've missed anything. No, but I suppose in conclusion, if you think something is wrong, don't give up, because, I've known something is wrong for a long time, and it took me a while to get doctors to see my point of view. And I'm grateful for the pain management clinic up in Orem, because I feel like I'm being listened to, and they're not just writing me off and saying, like, oh, it's all in your head, and, treating it as something that's real and quantifiable and something that can be treated, but at the same time it is hard because it's slow progress. Some days I'm like, oh, I'm great, and other days I'm just like, kill me now. I don't have to deal with this for the rest of my life. And yet I cling on mainly for my family's sake, just as I love them. And I know a lot of the things that I've been able to do wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have the support of my family, at least financially. Emotionally, my parents don't give me much, and I don't really confide in them anymore, just because I've just had issues in the past where they are dismissive, and I'm just like, whatever. Talk about it with my doctors and my therapist if you don't want to be understanding about it. And thankfully I have siblings who are understanding about that stuff too, and so I go to them, talk about things sometimes, but they're married and have kids, and so it's not like I can always go to them. So I feel like I have a better support system than most, and I'm grateful for that, but it's not perfect. And like I said, I haven't been to therapy in about a month and a half just because of, insurance issues. And I don't know. For all you medically compromised people out there, or maybe it's just an ADD thing or a autistic thing, but or social anxiety thing, but trying to find a new doctor and building a rapport with a new doctor and having to explain things and just repeat yourself over and over again when you've already hashed it out with another person. It's hard, and I hate doing it, and it's something I kind of have to mentally prepare myself for, because it's scary. Because, you know, I'm the type of person where I guess the best analogy where I can think of is if a dog is injured, they don't want to show it, and they go off and isolate just because they know that, like in the wild, if you show your vulnerabilities, that's a death sentence for you. And, you know, because of past traumas of bullying and people treating me differently because of physical and mental problems, you know, there is that reticence. But I still do it. I still talk about it with people, and I overcome my discomfort, partly for me, because for my own mental health and my own sanity. You know, and obviously I don't do it to everybody because of trust issues, but if I keep it all inside, it just bottles out in unhealthy ways, and then it affects people around me, and I'm not a nice person, pleasant person to be around. So I'd rather, you know, not cause trauma to the kids around me. And also, as far as others go, one of the things I've been really, really wrestling with as a semi-religious person is figuring out, I guess, what my purpose here on this earth. And I'm like, why did the Lord have me suffer? And have this suffering be constant and ongoing and persistent. And it's just really hard to deal with. And, you know, people in well-meaning say, oh, you're so strong. You know, the Lord doesn't give you anything you can handle, you know, all those kind of platitudes. And it's making you a better person, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I can kind of see that, but I'd rather not deal with it. It seems a little insensitive. And so, for me to find purpose in the hard things that I have to go through, I just have to think, like, if I'm honest and open about it with the people I know and the people I love and the people I trust, if they're going through something similar, maybe that'll give them the strength and the knowledge of what questions to ask, which doctors to go to, and just have the strength to be like, no, this isn't right. What's happening in my body isn't right. And to have the strength to give other people the power to go and change things for themselves and to figure out themselves and to get the help that they need. I know that's easier said than done, especially here in America, where insurance, like, I think part of the reason why I had to, you know, wait like a year and a half to get seen to the pain manager is insurance had to have me jump through these hoops saying you have to do these treatments first before we'll send you off to there. And whereas, you know, couldn't they have just believed me the first time and send me straight to the specialist? I don't know. I mean, I kind of get it, because sometimes, yeah, that conservative treatment can work, but for me, 9 times out of 10, that conservative treatment never works. And I kind of want to tell doctors, hey, skip all that and just go to the good stuff, because I know my body, and my body hates me, and this is probably not going to work, you know, but, yeah, try telling insurance that. So, I hope me trying to find meaning in the suffering that I have, part of that is like I said, it's for me, but it's also for other people to, like, hey, get help. And while that may be hard, especially if you don't have insurance, I don't know, just, if you think something is wrong, go to the doctor. Be firm with your doctor. Know what, do your own research, know what questions to ask. Yeah, and this whole experience is hard. I'm still going through it, because, still, my neck is still healing. I'm getting all sorts of diet, injections and nerve blocks and whatnot in my hip and my lower back to try and make me functional until I can have my surgery. I'm still dealing with the fatigue and the exhaustion, no matter how much sleep I get. I'm still dealing with the widespread pain and pressure points, and if I don't get enough sleep, experiencing those flu-like symptoms. I'm still going through it. I'm not okay. But if I think about it objectively, I can see progress. And I just have to be okay with how slow it is and be patient. And it's hard, but, I try to be hopeful and optimistic, even though there's a lot of stuff in my life that just wants to drag me down. But there's just so much that I want to do and I still want to experience in my life. Oh, I forgot to mention brain fog. Oh, brain fog. Oh my gosh. I could do a whole separate video on that. But yeah, I just have to cling on to the things that do make me happy. And that's hard sometimes. But I just hope it's worth it. That's the thing. I'm pessimistically optimistic or optimistically pessimistic. I don't know how to describe it. But I don't know. Maybe fellow zebras, chronically ill people will know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this video is really long, so I'll just end it here. Peace out. I don't know who watches these, but